Hey guys, coming at me another movie for guys. Continuing my 31 days of horror movie reviews. This is day 14, and I'm getting up there, guys. I'm almost going to be caught up. Very soon I will be. Now, this movie I'm going to be reviewing, like I've told you guys, and I've said this multiple times. I said my Christine review, my Reanime review. There are certain movies that are on this list just to be placeholders, and this movie is one of them. However, the other reason I want to watch this movie is mainly because of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, last year, of course, I watched it. I absolutely love Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It is an absolute masterpiece. If you guys haven't seen the movie, check it out. It is pretty much, it's a movie that is essential for Halloween, I think at least. And this movie, I heard, is very much like the new Rocky Horror Picture Show, so I definitely wanted to check it out. And that movie is the 2008 rock opera horror cult classic, Repo the Genetic Opera. Now, Repo the Genetic Opera, like I said, I've heard things like, oh, this is the new Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it very much was like that. It got terrible reviews when it came out, but has since developed a huge cult following, and I definitely didn't know what this movie was going to be, though. I didn't know too much going into it. I knew the basic plot, and that really was it. And I really didn't know what was going to come out of this movie because, there are certain movies I've watched that I thought were going to be trash, and they really weren't. But unfortunately, I have to say, while Repo the Genetic Opera is overall a fun movie, it overall is a huge convoluted mess. It's by far the worst of the 31 Days of Horror movies I have reviewed, and has a lot of problems, but does have some positive things about it. Let's get to the plot of Repo the Genetic Opera, which I actually really do like. I think the plot of this movie is very interesting. It takes place in the not-too-distant future, 2056, and basically there is an epidemic of organ failures that have devastated the planet. Everyone seems to have these organ failures, and there's this mega corporation, GeneCo, that provides organ transplants by a payment plan. If you don't, if you don't pay this person, there's this assassin called the Repo Man who basically does whatever he can to like rip out your organs, rip out intestines. I mean, he does some really crazy shit, and basically the Repo Man's daughter one day, Shiloh, she is actually has a blood disease, and she has been kept away. He's kept her away from Gene Co. because of some past that is because of the something that has happened in his past with Gene Co. that he doesn't want Shiloh to know about. But one day Shiloh discovers Gene Co. and is approached by the head of Gene Co., Roddy, who is dying, and he basically opens her up to the world of Gene Co. and basically starts to basically she is forced to learn some dark secrets about her family that she did not know, and that's basically the plot of Repo the Genetic Opera. Now, the plot, like I said, I definitely really do enjoy the plot to this movie. There are just a lot of problems. First of all, the acting to this movie is not your normal acting for a movie. Something you need to know going in this movie is that it is extremely campy, and the acting really does show that. And for some, it works, some it doesn't. Alexa Vega as Shiloh, I thought was good. She wasn't great, I thought she was good. And I thought she was going to be miscasted, but I thought she was actually pretty good. She has a good singing voice, and her character overall, I thought, was pretty good. I like their idea of, she's confined. This is a character that's basically been locked in her room her entire life, and she wants to go outside world, and you really see her getting more and more rebellious as the movie goes on, which I thought she definitely did a very good job with, especially towards the third half of this movie. She actually got really good in the third half. There are some parts of this movie, though, where I wasn't as attached to her character as I wanted to be. I thought she was good overall, but there is another character that I felt should have been the main lead, even though she did do, I think, a really good job. Paul Sorvino as Roddy is our main antagonist here, and he is as over the top as you can imagine. Sometimes a little too over the top. It's hard to take his character seriously. I found him to be not that. My only thing with him is that I didn't find him to be that menacing. I really didn't. I think because of how over the top he is, I didn't find him to be a very menacing villain. I wanted to care more about his character, and you do care about his character, but I didn't find his character to be nearly as menacing or interesting as he could have been, mainly because of Anthony Stewart Head's character, which I'll get into, but I thought Paul Sorvino overall did a good job. I liked his character overall, and I thought he was really good. However, the best by far is Anthony Stewart Head as Nathan. He is everything I want this movie to be. He's over the top, but he's also knows when to take this movie seriously. Nathan is a character that kind of has a split personality. Sometimes he's a really loving father to Shiloh, and then he's this serial killer that he has a much different voice, and I think Nathan, Anthony Stewart Head pulled this off very, very well, definitely. He was very good in this movie. He was very creepy at points. I mean, the Repo Man is legitimately creepy. I was creeped out at points, but even though it's supposed to be funny, I mean, I was a bit creeped out, and I definitely like that. But you also see that he just wants to be a good father to Shiloh as well, and I thought his character was probably the best character in the movie. I definitely thought he did an amazing job. Honestly, he did a great job. He is the best performance in the movie by far, and if everyone in the movie was like him, I definitely would have liked this movie a lot more. Sarah Brightman as Blind Mag, unfortunately, is horribly miscasted. I get that we needed an opera singer for a Blind Mag, but Sarah Brightman cannot act. I'm sorry. If you've seen her in the Phantom of the Opera, you notice she can't really act very well. I think she's a good singer, but I really did not like her in this movie. I did not think she was very good, and I didn't really care as much about her character as I wanted to. She's Shiloh's godmother and also Marnie's best friend, which of course Shiloh doesn't know about. But I thought her character overall was interesting. I just felt that she was another character that we need to focus on that didn't have enough, maybe not just didn't have enough focus, but just I didn't care as much. The worst actors in this movie by far are all of Roddy's children. Holy shit, they were all horrible. All of them were horrible. I don't know what Paris Hilton is doing in this movie. I don't know why she's here, but she's in this movie, and I don't know why. Her character is pretty awful. I did not like her at all. She's a horrible actress, as you guys know. And Bill Moseley and Nevik Ogre aren't that much better either. They add this like really slapstick, even childish tone to the movie that I felt was really out of place, especially with everything else going on. This was really out of place, was way too over the top, and there's a good kind of campy and a bad kind of campy. These three represent the bad kind of campy, and I really didn't like that. They're all trying to fight, I guess. The whole movie, they're just arguing over things, and I couldn't stay attached to their characters. They were all very annoying, and I didn't like their characters at all. They almost ruined the movie for me, but had it not been for some of the other things, I definitely would have probably hated this movie if the movie would have focused on them. My other biggest problem in the movie is the character of Grave Robber, played by Terrence Zadunik, who I think does do a very good job. That's not my problem in this movie. Grave Robber is a very fun character. The problem is he's supposed to be the narrator of this movie, but we only see him narrate the film just a couple of times, so whenever he's narrating the film, it feels very strange. Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I hate to compare it, but I'm going to because this is very much like Rocky Horror Picture Show. What that movie did is it had the criminologist consistently go back and forth, narrating the movie, and the grave robber only does it every so often, and it feels very out of place when he does that. And also him being an actual character in the movie, I really felt didn't need to happen. I understand he's supposed to be Shiloh's friend, but that's all I really got out of him as a character, that he was Shiloh's friend. He knows what's going on with Gene Co, and that he also is looking for Zydrate, which is a very powerful and addictive chemical. I thought that was interesting, but I just felt his character they could have done a lot more with him than they did, and I definitely wasn't as fan of him as I wanted to. So overall, the acting is good at best. Anthony Stewart Head by far is the best, and I thought Alexa Vega was pretty good too. But overall, I have to say, I like the chemistry between Alexa Vega and Anthony Stewart Head was really good. You really believe these two were a father and daughter. I forgot to say that, but overall, I thought the acting was just good. The directing here by Darren Lynn Bousman, I think was really good. He definitely was very aware of what he wanted this movie to be. The second this movie starts, it feels like a comic book. There are literally parts where they are in a comic book, and I don't know if this is based on a comic book. I believe it is. It is based on a Broadway musical, which is pretty evident that this is based off of a musical. But the style is very different too, which I'll get into. But the directing, I thought, was definitely very well handled. I definitely thought the tone was very well executed. And there are times when you are supposed to take this movie seriously, and then there are times when you're not. My only complaint of the directing is that there were so many points where just such weird shit happens to the point where I'm not finding it funny, I'm finding it weird. I never really found this movie to be that funny. There are parts of this movie where you're supposed to find it funny, and I never really found it that funny. So that regard, he really didn't do a good job with. But the story and the drama of this movie and just the pure difference, I really did appreciate. It's just the humor really didn't work for me very much at all. The writing, which is also written by Terrence Zanutic and also Darren Smith, I thought the writing was all over the place. Honestly, the writing is one of my hugest problems with this movie. This is the definition of an extremely convoluted movie. The movie moves so quickly, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. It gives you information like that. It goes from one scene to the next. It's very quick, and I really appreciate that in some regard. But then there's some stuff that I felt just went way too quickly, and I felt the movie was very convoluted because of that. I would have wanted some more with Blind Mag. Just cut out, they could have just easily cut out some scenes with Roddy's children, which I thought was completely out of place, and some of the writing was very, very off. However, I will tell you guys, the third act of this movie is great. I love the third act of this movie. When we get to the actual opera and we see what's going on there, that is when this movie gets fantastic. When basically when Shiloh's approached by Roddy, all of those scenes where Roddy is manipulating Nathan, they're great scenes. But everything else in between, some scenes with Blind Mag and some scenes with the people that worship some of the people that worship Jinko, they just feel weird and off and just so different from the rest of the movie. And I thought the writing really suffered because of that. So what could have been a really interesting story got very convoluted and very hard to follow. And that's another big problem with the writing for me. The cinematography, though, is fantastic. It doesn't really look like any other movie I've seen. Like I said, it looks like a comic book. It very much looks like we're in a world of a comic book. And that's something I really appreciate with the cinematography. The scenes with Repo Man, they're gruesome. They're hard to watch, and I definitely thought that those were very well done. I really enjoyed the cinematography to this movie, something that I thought was definitely very well done. And then, of course, the biggest thing we have to talk about, because this is an opera, is, of course, the music, which is very hit or miss. Some songs are fantastic. I thought some of them were great. Many of them regarding, our two main characters, Shiloh and Nathan. Any of the other songs, I really was not that big of a fan of, to be honest with you. I thought some of the songs were really good, but a lot of the songs I really felt were just kind of eh. They're not very memorable. This is not really a movie where I'm gonna leave humming a tune. Maybe one tune, but there are like 40 songs to this movie, and I might only remember like 5 of them. That's how much I didn't really care about the songs. And that's a problem because this is an opera. You should love all the songs, and I get that operas, they're all hit or miss, but this definitely did not work for me, and I thought some of the songs just got way too out of place, and I definitely didn't like that. I thought definitely, and some of the songs I didn't even feel had their necessary time. The movie's only 98 minutes, which I feel is a big problem. I felt the movie was a bit too short. I would have wanted a bit more going on in the second half of this movie, which is why the third act is so good. There's so much going on. There's a really great climax. That stuff I really, really loved. Very much like Dr. Horrible, which I definitely really liked. I mean, at times this is what this reminded me of. But the movie also is trying to be like the Rocky Horror Picture Show so much. It's trying to get that cult following. But the thing that the Rocky Horror Picture Show had that this didn't was a genuine with so many deeper meanings. This movie really doesn't have any of that. The Rocky Horror Picture Show had meanings of, people that are different and people that are weird. And this really didn't, because some of the characters, while you do sympathize with them, don't have the necessary time that they need to get you to care about them as much as they wanted you to. So it's not so much that I didn't care about the characters, I just felt we didn't get enough with them. Some of them we did really well with, but then some of them I just didn't feel they did enough with, and could have had a lot more with them. And also, because this is a Broadway musical, it definitely does show. It's a really great example of a movie that was translated to film that was a Broadway musical that really should never have been made. I don't really think this should have ever been a film. I think this should be a Broadway show. I understand maybe it could have worked as a movie, but this I thought did work, some of it, but a lot of it really did fall flat. And because that, I am going to give Repo the Genetic Opera a 3 out of 5 or a C+. It's a fun movie overall. I did have fun with it, but there are some things that were just way too weird in some directions that I just don't really understand, and a lot of things that if it had been a bit more polished up, I think I would have enjoyed the movie a bit more than I did. But overall, guys, let me know what you thought of Repo. And by the way, guys, this is a movie that I could see myself watching again. I really could. Maybe if it's, on Netflix or something, or on TV, maybe I'll give it a watch, and I would recommend it overall. Just know that it does go in some very weird directions, and can get very strange at points. Oh, and I definitely just want to say that. But overall, guys, that's basically my review of Repo the Genetic Opera. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie. You have seen it. I overall did enjoy this movie. Just had a few really big problems that really affected the movie for me. But I will see you guys in my next video, which, guys, I might not get my Doctor Who up review today because I'm going to homecoming. My school is homecoming today, and I'm going to be there all night, so I might not be able to get a review up. I will probably review Girl Meets World when I get home. Hopefully I can do that. But I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Girl Meets World, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.